thousands of farmers are growing their skills this weekend in La Crosse. The annual Moses Organic Farming Conference kicked off today at the La Crosse Center. It's the largest organic farming conference in the nation.
I want to first off just say a huge hello and welcome to our 26th annual Organic Farming Conference. One of the things this year is we have continued to expand our recycling and composting programs. You know, the first few years, and I'm really embarrassed to tell you all this, we didn't know this, but they burned everything. That's what they did. As soon as we found that out, we got very proactive. And we're counting on you to help us make this a low-waste conference.
A couple of years ago, Biocycle magazine reported that on the West Coast, people were trying something called zero waste events. Now, what a zero waste event amounts to is making a very concentrated effort to categorize the types of waste that are being generated by the party and preventing the food waste from going to the landfill.
And now we've gotten to the point where we are composting not just the food scraps, you guys, but we're composting the bowls, the paper cups, the clear drinking cups, the corn spoons. And thank you to Purple Cow. They come with a huge truck. They take everything that can be composted and it goes back to the farm.
We are right about 3,400 people for this conference this year. And we do serve about 13,000 to 14,000 meals during the course of this event. So I'll say there are tremendous numbers of people involved in the program. We're one of the few programs that provide all the meals for attendees. The breakfast and lunch is included by default. Suppers are available on a per purchase basis. Breaks are included with their registration. We do compost all of our food, and anything that's disposable is compostable.
Composting years ago was started really as a landfill diversion process, and we started that with organics, yard materials, trees, branches, plant material, and grass. There's absolutely no reason why we can't take fruits and vegetables that are either not saleable at a grocery store or, leftovers from a conference like this. Table platings that weren't consumed by somebody, and take those residuals and turn them back into a soil amendment for new fruits and vegetables to be grown.
Our goal in terms of the entire conference is to minimize waste, period. Whether it be recycling for paper or cardboard, we do have recycling for all of that. We do coordinate with the Radisson with the sourcing of compostable and biodegradable products, and that's a critical component right from day one. They're very, very supportive of this and work very closely with us. And the Radisson works with us in terms of planning of the menu to try to work with products that are going to be available at this time of the year, that are appropriate for organic menus. And so that's part of the planning process that begins back in May. We do contract separately for all of our recycling. We do contract separately for all our composting so that we do guarantee that it is taken care of. So that's a priority for us.
My role here is to schedule and reach out to all of the people interested in volunteering here at the conference from Wednesday to Saturday evening. They kind of help us do everything to make this possible.
This is my first time at the conference and thus first time volunteering as well.
Our volunteers travel from all over the Midwest, really anyone who has interest to come to the conference here. A lot of them might be young farmers or older people who just want to learn more about farming, so they don't want to make that commitment to pay the full price of registration. Between 12 to 14 hours of service, they get the reduced registration. For this year, it was $50.
We try to hit the key areas, such as right here next to where the refreshments will be. Key area where a lot of food waste will be generated. We have a limited number of receptacles for it, and by keeping it centralized, it also hopefully prevents it traveling to other areas that our hosts are not wanting us to take food in.
Where did these come from?
These frames come from Purple Cow. They've been providing our composting services here at the conference for probably the last, it's probably about the fourth year they've been here now. Another way it started was at Moses. We went to Farm Aid one year when it was in Milwaukee. And I saw that they had these signs that Purple Cow was doing composting for Farm Aid. So I thought, this would be great, So I contacted Purple Cow after that to see what would be involved in getting them to do our composting for us.
Thanks, Eric.
See you up there.
Okay, so these are the frames, and you'll just want to take one carefully off the cart because they all kind of stick together sometimes. And open it up. And then these are the special compost bags, so only these green bags should go on these frames.
We take some really easily assembled portable frames that are located throughout the facility, so that's really easy for the attendees.
So you just want to open them up.
Especially when you're using volunteer labor, it's got to be something that's able to be moved, human moved, doesn't require equipment or those sorts of things.
So that you can kind of scrunch it underneath.
Pretty simple to set up.
Wire holders.
Pretty simple to take down.
And then you want to bring the sides all the way in so that you can see a little bit of the blue frame, and that'll help hold it in place. We will place these all along the walls in the dining hall to help with mealtime compost, and then there'll also be several that are around the conference at other food stations to collect the compost.
We've got 4 food stations for snack foods during the whole conference. And so we always like to have a composting station and a recycle station next to all the food.
And we use those at Farm Aid in 2010. Recycle Clear donated that for our efforts at Farm Aid. And we've been using them ever since for zero waste events like this. And there's a number of compostable bags that are out there, and they do have to be certified as compostable. Biodegradable is typically either heat or ultraviolet light breaks it down, so it no longer looks like a bag, but it's still ultra small particles of plastic. So the polymers and the things that held that bag together can be degraded, by heat or by ultraviolet light. A compostable bag actually is something that can, heat does start to break the process apart, but eventually microorganisms can actually consume it and convert it and fully deconstruct it into the components that it was when it was corn before it was made into a bag. The biggest challenge is that you need to get one that's going to hold up, because that is the delicate balance. We want a bag that's going to hold a relatively large volume of food residuals long enough to get it to a compost facility, but then we want it to break down. Some of the bags are a little more delicate than they need to be, but the industry is evolving. It's a new emerging industry as far as making the bioplastics. Like anything, the technology is getting better.
So when they're unloading the bags from the frames, they load them in the totes, they bring them down here throw them into here. And then when these things fill up, then they actually load these on the truck with the forklift.
We have about 80 overall. It varies year to year depending on our tasks. Last year was our 25th anniversary, so we had a couple more. I think we were up to 90. The earlier days when there's fewer people, we've got about 2 or 3 people per meal shift. And then the heavier times, we do 4 people at a time. So they usually start about a half an hour before meals to make sure bins are empty, and then they go to about a half hour after meals. On the volunteer application, they specify if they can do heavy lifting, which is kind of a key component to the compost recycling end of things.
You gotta try not to let them get too full. This one's got a lot of juice in it too. Compostable bags break a little easier than regular trash bags.
We don't use the W word. It's not waste until it's wasted. So, these food residuals that are on the plates here were grown in beautiful, nutritious, organic soils that need to be fed. I mean, the soil is a living biosphere that is no different than us. It needs food, it needs water, it needs air. So, taking those food residuals, and instead of burying them, entombing them for eons in a landfill, bringing them to our compost facility where we use thousands of years old recipe called composting to take naturally occurring biology, and we convert that back into soil food so that it grows fruits and vegetables for next year's conference.
So people are doing a pretty good job here today and yesterday and Thursday in regard to composting. It's so easy just to throw stuff in a trash bag no matter what. So you find stuff in the trash that can be compostable. That's why people like me are volunteering, I guess. Well, that's why they selected volunteers like us to do this job, to lightly sift through the trash and to put the things that are compostable in the right areas. There, on these bowls in particular, there's like a sprayed on wax. Some people will say you can't compost that. Other people will say throw it in. I'm not the expert there.
The official verdict would be that yes, it's compostable.
Okay.
Mainly because it's going to be all food grade dyes, and possibly wax coatings or something.
Okay.
And it's paper.
Right.
In a perfect world, you'd want something that's really truly compostable, that's actually been tested for compostability.
Right.
And then that would have some identification on it that it's compostable, and it meets a real fancy standard for compostability. Great. Thanks for all your help.
Yeah, you betcha. Thanks for doing it. You got quite a pile going back there. Have you seen it?
No, is it back by the deck?
Yeah. You want to see it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Compostable bags and everything.
See you later.
Yeah.
First out of the way.
is if you have signage that has the actual item on it at every location where there's composting. On this signage, there'd be a cup that would be like compostable. Like these items are compostable. Cup, plate, spoon, all the organic materials like, you know, your leftover food. So Purple Cow has a really active composting system, so they're able to put in a lot more than just, you know, your regular stuff that people are used to putting in their own home compost. So what they would discern as not compostable at their house, you can compost because we're doing it at such a large scale. Purple Cow, they're pros, so we can do that here.
There is a CN ratio, you know, we're 30 to 1 carbon to nitrogen, which is kind of amazing because that's like the ideal composting carbon to nitrogen ratio too, which is why, you know, animals or even us, if we're not embalmed, you know, can decompose pretty rapidly.